Hi, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tech Exec Podcast, where I'll help you create teams worth leading, because life's too short to lead a mediocre team. As always, I'm your host, Aviv Ben-Yosef, Tech Executive Coach and Consultant, and our subject today is learning organizations. I think that we underestimate the fact that teams cannot just sit still. We're in this industry that, for better or worse, we always have to keep pushing ourselves forward. The moment we stop is the moment that we start sliding downhill. That's just the way it is. There's no equilibrium really in our line of work. We have to constantly be learning, always be on the lookout. It might be a bit tiring at times, but I also think it's what makes our line of work so fun. However, often I see teams that are getting lost when it comes to understanding how we're supposed to be doing this, how we're supposed to be constantly learning. Or I see leaders who I work with who do not understand why their team doesn't try new things, doesn't seem to be learning, even though, as far as they're concerned, this is something that ought to be very natural to them. Or maybe they had this knack in the past for learning, and for some reason it stopped as they evolved, as things changed. In this episode, I'll cover quickly what I think you can do in order to ensure that you have a learning organization. It doesn't matter if you had it in the past or not, you can create it. What does it mean to have a learning organization? It's an organization where we constantly are learning things. We're trying new things. We have experiments going on. We have the team not always continue doing things as we've done it in the past because we've found a one true way and we're now stuck with it. But we are constantly trying new things, not to a fault, not in a way that makes it so hard to do anything else because there's always, something in motion, but in a responsible way. That means that we're trying new things, we're learning, we're not going to allow ourselves to ossify too much as an organization. And this starts with you as a leader and with your leadership team. You have to ensure that the team has enough breathing room in order to experiment. I always say that one of the first things to go out the window when a team is constantly pressured and having too tight deadlines is innovation. Because when I care about the work and I care about the deadline, often what I end up doing, a responsible senior engineer, is default to my safe zone. I'm going to do the things I know how to do well, even if it's going to be tough, because I want to minimize risks. And that doesn't go hand in hand with innovation. It's very hard for people to say, I know that this new idea might fail, but still I think it's worth doing right now when the project is on the line. So yes, I know that for startups, it's not easy not to have some sort of deadline or not be under pressure, but I do know that we have a good amount of control over it, even if not absolute control. And that means that you can try to create enough space so that from time to time the team can try things out. They don't have to be experimenting in every single moment. Not every commit will include some experiment, but if you make enough time, you're going to make it possible for them. That's the prerequisite for any real innovation. 2, in order to inject innovation into a team, we have to ensure that we embrace some failure. We don't see people try things out if they're chastised whenever their idea ends up being a flop. In order to have some creativity, in order to have the team learn and try new things, it has to, from time to time, fail or not get amazing success out of something. It can also sometimes just be okay, cool. Not groundbreaking, not a failure, but nothing to write home about. That's fine. We want to accumulate these in order to, with time, find the successes. These investments in experiments are a bit like, a venture capital portfolio. Not everything is going to be a home run, but we want to have enough successes so that in the grander scheme of things, we are positive. We're making progress. We're getting more value out of it. And to do that, some of those investments in experiment have to be failures, but we want the portfolio as a whole to remain healthy. I've written a lot about this in my books, but I think that this core will probably be enough to just understand how you can get started. If you're not sure about how to do that, you can write to me. My email's in the show notes, and I'll try to help you a bit more personally. But I think that essentially, at the end of the day, we want to embrace some failures, because that means that we're actually trying something new, and communicate that like that to your team, because that will create that atmosphere, the atmosphere that allows the team to grow and learn together. And lastly, another thing I really like is ensuring that we share this learning, so that I don't want to have a couple of senior engineers who are doing most of the learning and they're running forward by themselves. I want to create these platforms of sharing information, sharing experiments. So we want the team to regularly say, here's what we tried, here's what we learned, here's the current experiment that we're doing. You want to have that happen across the organization so people actually talk about it. And when you actually create these platforms, you create the space to talk about it. You're also showing everyone how committed you really are to having these experiments going on, and how you're actually trying to help people ensure that they're learning and putting the time to do that. And whatever success you're getting, or even if it's a failure, whatever learning you got out of it, are then going to continue growing, because you're taking that success, or you're taking that learning and you're spreading it throughout the organization. And that ensures that you're maximizing the value out of each experiment, and you're showing people that we're doing it. It's not just something that we say. Here are your colleagues, your peers who are doing this, and they're sharing what they've done. So if you have an idea, you can also come up with a plan of how to try it out, talk to your manager, and we just might decide to go for it. That's the sort of learning organization you want to create, where people constantly see what's going on, understand how we can do these experiments, and then share it so that the entire organization learns. That's the learning organization here. We don't want to have a few individuals who each learn by themselves. It's better than nothing, of course. But if you want to have a genuine learning organization where the entire organization is getting pulled up from your experiments, everyone benefits, you have to have this sharing platform so that people actually talk about it. And I do think that this has some extra benefits that I might get to in a future episode. But just having these platforms are creating a robust skeleton for your team around learning, and ensures that you're not going to remain stuck and ossify. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. As always, if you have any questions or comments, my email's in the show notes, and I'm always so happy to hear from you and help you if I can. And if you haven't yet, do check out my newsletter. It's the best newsletter online for tech execs, where every week I share my podcast, an article, a video, and some extra goodies. And I'll see you here next week. Ciao.